Ethan Carter never thought his journey among the stars would bring him to such a place. He was only an engineer, not a soldier, not a diplomat, and certainly not a man who wanted the attention of a royal figure. Yet here he was, standing in a vast throne hall made of crystal-like walls, glowing with colors that shifted like liquid light. He was surrounded by tall alien beings whose sharp features and shining eyes made him feel both out of place and strangely small. The world was called Zithyrus, a planet filled with spires that reached toward the sky, and cities floating above seas of silver mist. The people of Zithyrus were known across the galaxy for their elegance, their advanced knowledge, and their unshakable pride. Humans were newcomers here, considered weak by most of them, useful in trade but rarely respected. And yet Ethan was here. Not because he chose to be, but because fate, or maybe some strange sense of curiosity, had thrown him into this hall of royalty. At the far end of the grand chamber sat Queen Saralith, ruler of Zithyrus. She was taller than Ethan, graceful in every movement, her golden eyes steady as if she could see into the hearts of those who stood before her. Her crown was not made of metal, but of glowing strands of energy that curved above her head like flowing fire. When she spoke, her voice carried not through echoes, but through some deeper resonance that made it feel like her words touched every person in the hall at once. Her council stood on either side of her, whispering among themselves. Some stared at Ethan with disdain, some with curiosity. He felt their judgment pressing down on him like a heavy weight. Then, the queen raised her hand. Silence fell, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "Human," she said, her voice clear, commanding, yet not unkind. "You stand here, a stranger in my court. You carry no title, no army, and no name known among the stars. And yet, I offer you a challenge." Ethan blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. "A challenge, Your Majesty." His voice came out quieter than he wanted, but it was steady. She gestured, and from the side of the throne, 2 attendants brought forward a box. It was unlike anything Ethan had seen before, smooth, black as obsidian, yet humming with a faint glow that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. There were no hinges, no seams, no lock visible. Just a perfect cube of mystery. "This is the box of sovereignty," Saralith said, her tone solemn. "For centuries my people have tried to unlock its secret. None have succeeded. It is said that whoever can open it is destined to be chosen by the will of the ancients." The attendants placed the box on a pedestal before Ethan. The room seemed to grow colder, quieter, as if the box itself demanded silence. Ethan stepped closer, his heart beating faster. He could feel the energy radiating from it, humming in his bones. He didn't know what it was made of or what was inside, but he knew one thing. It was not something ordinary. The queen's golden eyes watched him closely. Then, with a voice that made every alien in the hall stiffen in shock, she declared, "If you can unlock this box, I will marry you." The word struck Ethan like a thunderclap. The entire court erupted into noise, gasps, protests, furious whispers. "He is a human," one counselor shouted. "Unworthy," another cried. "This is madness." Ethan stood frozen, his mind racing. Had he heard her correctly? Marry her? The queen of an empire that spanned star systems? Him? He turned his eyes back to Saralith, searching her expression for some hint of jest. But she was utterly serious, her face calm, her eyes steady. He swallowed hard. "Your Majesty, with respect, why me? I am no one important." Saralith's lips curved slightly, almost like the shadow of a smile. "That is exactly why. My people are bound by traditions so rigid they have blinded themselves. You are different. You see things in ways we do not. Perhaps that is why you were brought here." The counselors protested again, but she silenced them with a raised hand. Her gaze never left Ethan. "You may refuse, human," she said. "But, if you accept, know this. The box cannot be forced. It cannot be broken. It reveals itself only to the one who can truly understand it. If you fail, you will leave my world and never return." Ethan felt the weight of her words. He had come to Cytherus by accident, stranded when his small survey ship malfunctioned. He had been taken in by their people, studied like some curious animal, then eventually brought before the Queen herself. He never expected kindness, but he had not expected this either. All eyes were on him. He could feel their scorn, their doubt. To them, he was just a fragile human, unworthy of standing in their grand hall. But deep inside, a small spark of defiance lit within him. He had spent his whole life solving problems no one else wanted to touch. Machines beyond repair, systems that others gave up on. And now, here was the greatest puzzle of all, placed directly into his hands. Slowly, Ethan nodded. I accept. The hall broke into chaos once more, but Saralith's expression remained calm, her eyes shining with something Ethan could not yet name. The box was carried away to a chamber prepared for him, guarded at all hours by tall alien sentinels. Ethan followed, his heart heavy with both fear and determination. He had no idea how to open the box, no idea why fate had chosen him, but he knew this much. He could not back down now. As he entered the chamber, the guards sealed the doors. He was left alone with the box, its silent hum filling the air. He reached out, touching its surface. It was warm, alive almost, like it was watching him as much as he was studying it. And in that moment, Ethan understood. This was not just about marriage. This was not just about proving himself. The box held something deeper, something the Queen desperately wanted revealed. He whispered to himself, "What are you hiding, little box?" The hum of energy grew stronger, as if answering him. Somewhere far down the hall, Queen Saralith stood by a window of living crystal, staring out at the twin moons of Cytherus. Her council argued behind her, furious at her choice, demanding she explain herself. But she said nothing. She only thought of the human, the stranger who might be the key to what even her people could not achieve. And for the first time in centuries, Saralith felt something she thought long lost: hope. The chamber where Ethan worked was unlike any place he had ever seen. Its walls shimmered like frozen light, and the air itself seemed charged with quiet energy. At the center of the room sat the mysterious box of sovereignty, resting on a pedestal of crystal stone. Two tall alien guards stood outside the heavy door, their expressions hard and unreadable. Ethan paced the room slowly, his eyes never leaving the box. He had studied machines all his life. Broken engines, failing reactors, damaged navigation systems. But nothing compared to this. The box was smooth, seamless, as though it had not been built, but simply existed. Its faint glow pulsed in rhythm, almost like the beat of a heart. He leaned closer, whispering to himself. No hinges, no seams, no locks. How am I supposed to open you? The box gave no answer, only the quiet hum that seemed to settle deeper into his bones the longer he stared. At it, meanwhile, in the royal council chamber, voices clashed like thunder. "This is reckless," one elder cried. His silver robes shimmered as he stepped forward, his sharp face lined with anger. "How could the Queen place the honor of our people in the hands of a human? He is untested, unworthy." Another counselor nodded. "He has no lineage, no knowledge of our traditions. If the box has resisted us for centuries, why should a stranger succeed?" But Queen Saralith sat silently on her throne, her golden eyes calm. She let their fury run its course before she finally raised her hand. "The box does not answer to lineage," she said. Her voice, calm but commanding, cut through their protests. "It does not open to tradition or pride. Perhaps it requires something we no longer possess." The chamber grew quiet. Some counselors lowered their heads in thought. Others clenched their fists in defiance. Yet none dared speak further against her decision in her presence. But once they left the hall, whispers spread quickly through the palace. Whispers of anger, whispers of doubt, whispers of envy. Back in his chamber, Ethan finally sat down, rubbing his forehead. His mind spun with frustration. He had tried tapping the box, pushing on it, even speaking to it. Nothing. A soft sound made him lift his head. The door opened slightly, and Queen Sarilith herself stepped into the room. She was alone, her golden robe flowing around her as she approached the pedestal. Ethan quickly stood, startled. "Your Majesty, I didn't expect—" "Relax," she said softly, almost gently. "The guards believe I have come to see your progress. In truth, I came to see how you are." Ethan blinked. He had not expected concern from her. I don't know what to make of it. The box feels alive, but it doesn't respond to anything I try." She studied the box in silence, her golden eyes reflecting the faint glow. "For generations my people have tried. Scholars, warriors, leaders, they all failed. The box remains closed as if mocking us." Ethan frowned. "Then why give it to me? I don't have their knowledge. I don't even understand half the things your people know." Sarilith turned to him, her gaze steady. "Perhaps that is why. You see the world differently. You do not carry the weight of our traditions. That may be the key." Her words settled. In Ethan's mind, different. That was what he had always been, even among his own people. He solved problems not by following rules, but by breaking them apart and finding new paths. Maybe that was why fate had brought him here. Before he could speak again, the Queen straightened. Her expression shifted, becoming once more the calm mask of a ruler. "I must go. But remember, sometimes what cannot be forced must be understood." She left as quietly as she had come, leaving Ethan with her words echoing in his mind. Later that night, while the moons of Zitherus glowed through the crystal walls, Ethan returned to the pedestal. He watched the box carefully, noticing something he had overlooked before. Its faint pulse was not random. There was rhythm in it, like a pattern repeating. He leaned closer. "Wait a second. This isn't just energy. It's almost like a signal." He tapped his fingers lightly against the box, trying to mimic the rhythm. To his surprise, the glow flickered slightly in response. His eyes widened. "So you are listening." Excitement surged through him. For hours he tapped, paused, adjusted his rhythm, testing different patterns. The box responded faintly, but only faintly, like it was aware but waiting for something more. Before he could continue, the door suddenly opened. Ethan quickly turned, half expecting guards. Instead, it was Lord Viren, one of the Queen's most powerful nobles. His tall figure filled the doorway, his dark robe trailing behind him. His sharp eyes glared at Ethan with open disdain. "So, this is the human who has stolen the Queen's attention," Viren said coldly. "Pathetic." Ethan stiffened. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't want—" "You should have refused," Viren snapped, stepping closer. "You think you can take the hand of our Queen? You think you can claim what belongs to Zitherian blood?" Ethan clenched his fists. "She gave me the choice. I accepted." Viren sneered. "You will fail, and when you do, I will be the one she chooses. Remember that, human." With that, he turned and swept out of the chamber, the door slamming behind him. Ethan exhaled, his heart racing. He could feel Viren's hatred burning like a fire. It wasn't just doubt anymore, it was jealousy, and it was dangerous. The next day, rumors filled the palace. Some said the Queen had gone mad. Others said Ethan used trickery to be near her. The nobles whispered in corridors, their eyes sharp whenever Ethan passed. He felt their judgment constantly, the weight of being the outsider who dared to touch the sacred box. Yet despite the pressure, he kept working. Each night he studied the rhythm of the glow, trying to make sense of its strange patterns. Each day he noticed small changes, tiny flickers, faint vibrations, as though the box was slowly acknowledging his presence. But the doubt around him grew louder. He overheard guards muttering. He saw counselors shake their heads. And more. Then once he caught glimpses of shadowy figures watching him too closely. Still he pressed on. He had made a promise not only to the Queen but also to himself. One evening Sarilith visited again. She entered quietly, her eyes soft when she saw him still working. "You have not given up," she said. Ethan shook his head. "No, but I think others would like me to." I can feel it. They don't want me here. Her gaze hardened slightly. You are correct. Many of my people despise this. They believe you threaten what they hold sacred. Some would see you fail no matter the cost. Ethan met her eyes. Then why keep defending me? For a moment her expression softened. Because I believe the box chose you the moment it responded. And because... She paused as if weighing her words. Because I trust my instincts, even when others doubt them. Ethan felt something stir within him at her words, a sense of respect, perhaps even connection. She was a queen, burdened by the weight of a people who resisted change, yet she stood firm. I'll keep trying, he said firmly. I won't let them scare me away. Her golden eyes lingered on him a moment longer, then she nodded. Good. The box waits for the one who listens. Perhaps that is you. With that she left again, leaving Ethan both strengthened and burdened by her faith. That night, as he sat before the glowing box, Ethan whispered to himself, They doubt me. They want me gone. But maybe this is why I'm here. To prove them wrong. To prove that even a human has something to offer. The box pulsed softly in reply, as if it agreed. And for the first time, Ethan felt he was not entirely alone. The days passed in a blur of light, whispers, and endless attempts. Ethan Carter spent nearly every hour inside the guarded chamber, sitting before the box of sovereignty. To outsiders, it might have looked like wasted time, just a human staring at a block of glowing stone. But to Ethan, every flicker of light, every faint pulse, every quiet vibration meant progress. The box was not dead. It was alive in its own way, and slowly it was learning to notice him. Ethan tapped again, following the rhythm he had discovered before. The glow of the box pulsed faintly in answer. He smiled tiredly. Good. You're listening. But progress was painfully slow. Every step forward seemed followed by hours of silence. It was as if the box was testing his patience, demanding not just cleverness but endurance. While Ethan worked, the palace around him buzzed with tension. The nobles gathered in secret corners, their voices filled with anger and fear. He cannot be allowed to succeed, one whispered sharply. The queen disgraces us by trusting him, another hissed. And if he does open the box? Imagine it. A human chosen by the ancients. At the center of their scheme stood Lord Viren, his dark eyes burning with pride and envy. He had always believed the queen would one day choose him as her consort, strengthening his own power. But now a stranger from a distant world threatened everything. He is weak, Viren told his allies. The queen's fascination blinds her, but we will not allow this insult to continue. If the human does not fail on his own, we shall see that he fails. Permanently. The others murmured, in agreement. Inside his chamber, Ethan felt none of this plotting directly, though he often sensed eyes watching him with too much intent. Still he focused on the box. He began recording the patterns in the glow, scratching symbols onto sheets of alien parchment the guards had reluctantly provided. The more he watched, the more he realized the patterns were not random. They shifted in cycles, like music, like breathing. It's alive, he murmured. Not a machine. Not exactly. Late that evening, the door opened again. Ethan turned quickly, half expecting Viren. Instead, it was Queen Saralith. She entered quietly, her golden eyes soft as they settled on him. You work tirelessly, she said, her voice low but strong. Ethan gave a tired laugh. If I stop, I'll lose the rhythm. It feels like the box forgets me if I leave it alone too long. She stepped closer, studying his notes. These marks, they are human numbers. Yes, Ethan said. I write down the pulses as sequences. To you it may look meaningless. But I think it's a kind of language. Maybe not words, but a pattern that wants to be understood. Saralith tilted her head, considering this. Our scholars tried for centuries. They mapped the energy, recorded every flicker, yet none of them thought to feel it as you do. To treat it like music, not mathematics. Ethan shrugged, smiling faintly. I'm not a scholar, I just listen differently. Her eyes lingered on him a moment longer than necessary. Then she turned toward the box. If the ancients left this behind, perhaps they meant for one who could feel beyond logic to find it. Her words gave him quiet strength. For a few moments they stood together in silence, the human and the queen, both gazing at the mystery before them. That night, as Ethan worked, the shadows in the chamber seemed heavier. He bent over his notes, tapping softly on the box when a faint sound reached his ears. The whisper of a door opening. He looked up quickly. Too late. A cloaked figure rushed forward, a blade of shimmering energy in hand. Ethan stumbled back, heart racing. The assassin lunged, the blade cutting the air where he had been a moment before. Guards! Ethan shouted, but the walls were thick and the sound barely carried. He grabbed the nearest object, a crystal stool, and swung it clumsily. The assassin dodged easily, their glowing blade slicing the stool in half. Ethan's pulse pounded. He was no fighter. If the assassin struck again, he would not survive. But before the blade could fall, the door burst open. Queen Saralith herself stormed in, 2 guards close behind. With a single sweep of her hand, energy flared, striking the assassin back. The guards leapt forward, seizing the figure and dragging them to the ground. The queen's eyes blazed with fury as she pulled back the hood. The face revealed was that of a minor noble, one of Viren's supporters. You dare this treachery in my palace? Saralith's voice rang with power, her anger filling the chamber. The guards dragged the assassin away, leaving Ethan trembling, in shock. The queen turned to him, her gaze softening. You are unharmed? Ethan nodded shakily. Barely. If you hadn't... Her voice grew quieter. There are those who will stop at nothing to see you fail. You must be cautious. Ethan swallowed hard. Then why risk all this? Why put me in danger? Her golden eyes met his, steady and unflinching. Because I believe the box will only open for you, and if it does, everything will change. After the attempt on his life, the queen ordered guards to stand inside the chamber as well as outside. Still, Ethan knew danger lurked. Viren would not give up so easily. But instead of fear, the incident fueled his determination. If others wanted him gone so badly, it meant he was closer to something important. He returned to his work with renewed focus. He tapped rhythms, hummed notes, even matched the pulses with his own heartbeat. And slowly, the box began to respond more clearly. TUI. Glow no longer flickered randomly. It shifted in harmony with his tapping, brighter, stronger, as though acknowledging him. At times he thought he could almost feel emotions from it. Curiosity, hesitation, perhaps even trust. Ethan leaned forward one evening, whispering, You're not just a box, are you? You're waiting for someone, waiting to be understood. Light shimmered in reply. Meanwhile, Lord Viren grew more desperate. He stormed into the council chamber, his voice sharp. This madness must end. The Queen endangers us all by trusting this outsider. He should be cast from our world before. His presence brings ruin. But others were not so sure anymore. Rumors of Ethan's small progress had begun to spread. Some whispered that the box glowed brighter in his presence, that it had resisted centuries of Zetherians but now stirred for a human. If the box responds to him, one elder murmured. Perhaps the ancients intended it. Viren slammed, his fist against the table. Blasphemy! He is nothing. But even as he shouted, doubt began to creep into the hearts of others. The Queen visited Ethan again, this time staying longer. She watched him work, silent at first, then finally asked, Do you ever regret accepting my challenge? Ethan glanced up, surprised. Regret? Sometimes I think I'm in over my head. But no, I don't regret it. If I had walked away, I'd always wonder what might have happened. Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. Bravery and foolishness often look the same. Ethan chuckled. Then maybe I'm both. For a moment, their laughter echoed softly in the chamber, easing the weight of tension that hung over them. But When silence returned, Ethan placed his hand gently against the box. The glow brightened, steady and strong. The Queen's eyes widened slightly. "It knows you." Ethan nodded. "I think so. And I think it's testing me. Not just my mind, but my will." She studied him, her gaze unreadable. "Then prove to it and to my people that a human can hold such will." The deadline set by the council drew near. Soon, Ethan would be forced to present his progress, or be cast out forever. The pressure weighed heavily, but he did not stop. He remembered Saralith's words. Sometimes what cannot be forced must be understood, so he listened more deeply. He stopped trying to solve the box like a machine and began treating it like a living puzzle, something to be felt rather than broken apart. Late one night, as the moons bathed the chamber in silver light, he matched his heartbeat to the box's rhythm. His pulse, steady and human, tapped softly against its surface. And for the first time, the box glowed with a warmth that filled the room, like the gentle light of dawn. Ethan sat back, breathless. It worked. The Queen, who had quietly entered to watch, stepped forward, her golden eyes shining with awe. "You have done more in days than our greatest minds in centuries." But Ethan shook his head. "It's not me alone. It's us, human and Zetherian, logic and feeling. The box is teaching me as much as I'm learning from it." Saralith's gaze softened, a flicker of pride in her eyes. "Then perhaps you are closer to unlocking it than you realize." The night ended with silence, but not the silence of defeat. It was the silence of anticipation, the calm before revelation. Ethan looked at the glowing box and whispered, "I'll find the key. And when I do, no one will doubt why I was chosen." The box pulsed once, as if in promise. And somewhere in the palace, Lord Viren clenched his fists, vowing that if the human succeeded, he would not live long enough to enjoy his victory. The council chamber of Zitherus was restless. Every noble elder and advisor filled the great hall, their robes shimmering like liquid crystal, their eyes sharp with suspicion. The Queen sat upon her throne of living light, her golden gaze steady, as she listened to their demands. "The human's time is nearly gone," one elder said coldly. "The moon will rise within a cycle, and he has not opened the box. The law is clear. If he fails, he must leave this world forever." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Another noble stepped forward, his voice sharper. "He has distracted the Queen long enough. We should return the box to the scholars. Let us end this foolish trial." But Queen Saralith raised her hand, silencing them. "The human is not finished," she said. "The box responds to him as it has never responded to us. I will grant him until the last moment allowed." Her words stirred both anger and unease. Many counselors looked away, unwilling to defy her openly, yet their whispers carried. "Must fail. Better he fails than we be shamed by his success. If the box chooses him, what does that mean for us?" At the edge of the chamber, Lord Viren stood with folded arms, his expression dark. He said nothing, but his silence was heavier than words. In his guarded chamber, Ethan Carter sat cross-legged before the glowing box. His notes lay scattered around him, pages filled with numbers, rhythms, and sketches. He rubbed his tired eyes. His hands trembled from exhaustion, but he refused to stop. The box pulsed softly, as if breathing. He tapped his fingers against it, matching its rhythm. For days he had done this, adjusting, testing, listening. Each time, the box glowed brighter, as if opening itself one step at a time. But still, it remained sealed. Ethan let out a long sigh. "What am I missing?" He leaned back, staring at the ceiling of shimmering crystal. The council's deadline pressed on his mind like a weight. If he failed, he would be cast out, and Saralith would face humiliation for placing her trust in him. And if he succeeded? He wasn't sure what that would mean either. The Queen's promise of marriage still echoed in his thoughts. At first it had seemed impossible, absurd, but now, after all their quiet conversations, after her steady belief in him, it no longer felt like a joke. He whispered to himself, "I can't fail her. Not now." That evening, Sarilith came to him. She dismissed the guards and entered quietly, her golden robe flowing behind her. She looked at him with concern. "You are weary," she said softly. Ethan chuckled weakly. "That obvious, huh?" "You have pushed yourself beyond what any should endure," she replied. "But still, you do not stop." "I can't," he said firmly. "I think the box is waiting for something I haven't given yet." She stepped closer, gazing at the glowing cube. "For centuries, we studied it as if it were a weapon, a tool, or a treasure to be claimed. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps it waits not for force, but for something else." Ethan frowned. "Something else, like what?" Her eyes met his, steady and deep. "Perhaps it waits for honesty, for trust." Her words lingered in his mind long after she left. Trust. Honesty. He thought about what he had been doing. He had treated the box like a puzzle to solve, a lock to break. But what if it wasn't a puzzle? What if it was more like a conversation? That night, Ethan sat before the box in silence. He placed his hand gently on its surface and closed his eyes. "I've been trying to solve you like a problem," he whispered. "But maybe you're not a problem. Maybe you're alive. Maybe you're waiting for me to show you who I am." He thought about his life, about the times he had been overlooked, underestimated, called ordinary, about the nights he spent fixing broken machines that others threw away, about the strange path that led him here, to this alien world, to this impossible moment. And he thought about the Queen, her faith, her quiet strength, her willingness to stand against her own people to defend him. He tapped gently, not in numbers or patterns this time, but in rhythm with his own heartbeat, a steady human beat. The box pulsed in answer, stronger than ever before. Ethan's eyes widened. "That's it. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for connection." The next day, the council gathered again in the throne hall. The chamber was filled with tension as Ethan was brought forward, escorted by guards. The box rested on a pedestal at the center of the hall, glowing faintly. Queen Sarilith sat on her throne, her expression calm but her eyes betraying quiet hope. The counselors murmured impatiently. "It is time," one elder declared. "Either the human opens the box now or he leaves Zetheris forever." Ethan swallowed hard. His heart raced, but he forced himself to step forward. He placed his hands gently on the box, ignoring the murmurs of scorn around him. He closed his eyes, steadying his breath. He did not think of the council, or the nobles, or even his own fear. He thought of his heartbeat, steady and true. He tapped softly on the box, his rhythm calm, natural, human. The glow of the box brightened. Murmurs swept through the hall. He continued tapping, his voice quiet but steady. "I'm not here to force you, I'm just here to listen. If you want to open, then open. If not, then I accept that too." For a moment, nothing happened. The hall grew silent, the counselors leaning forward in anticipation. Then, suddenly, the box shuddered. Light burst from its surface, filling the hall with brilliance. The hum grew louder, rising into a harmony that echoed like music through the chamber. The box split open. Gasps filled the hall. The impossible had happened. Inside, the box rested a glowing crystalline orb, radiating warmth and ancient energy. The light illuminated every corner of the chamber, casting shadows of awe on every face. Ethan staggered back, eyes wide. It opened. The Queen rose from her throne, her golden eyes shining with pride and wonder. The box of sovereignty has opened for him. The council erupted into chaos. This cannot be. A trick. No Zetherian could do it, yet a human? But Sarilith's voice cut through the uproar. Silence. Her gaze swept over them, fierce and unyielding. You all witnessed it. For centuries, the box resisted us. It opened only now, for him. This is the will of the ancients. Deny it, if you dare. The nobles fell into uneasy silence. Some lowered their heads in reluctant respect. Others clenched their fists in fury. Lord Viren stepped forward, his voice sharp with anger. This proves nothing. Perhaps the box is broken, weakened by time. Perhaps it was chance. Enough, the Queen commanded, her voice like steel. Do you dare claim the ancients themselves are broken? Do you dare deny what all have seen with their own eyes? Viren's jaw tightened, but he could not answer. The Queen turned back to Ethan, her expression softening. She stepped down from her throne and stood beside him before the glowing orb. As I promised, she said, her voice carrying through the chamber. If you open the box, I would take you as my consort, not by my choice alone, but by the will of the ancients who placed their trust in you. Gasps rippled through the hall again, but none dared speak against her now. Ethan's heart raced. He looked at her, seeing the strength in her golden eyes, and felt both overwhelmed and strangely at peace. I didn't do this alone, he said quietly. You believed in me when no one else did. Without that, I might never have found the answer. Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. Then, perhaps we opened it together. That night, the palace glowed with celebration, but beneath the music and lights, tension still lingered. Some nobles bowed reluctantly to the new reality. Others whispered in corners, their envy sharper than ever. And in the shadows, Lord Viren watched, his eyes filled with fury. The human had succeeded, but Viren's ambition had not died. As Ethan stood beside Queen Sarilith, gazing at the glowing orb, he felt the weight of a new destiny settling on his shoulders. He had opened the box, but the journey was not over. The Queen's hand rested gently on his arm, steady and warm. This is only the beginning, she said softly. Ethan nodded, his eyes on the stars beyond the crystal walls. Then let's see where it leads. The halls of the palace glowed brighter than ever before. The crystalline orb from the box of sovereignty rested on its pedestal, bathing every corner in soft light. The once tense council chamber now hummed with a new kind of energy, one of awe, curiosity, and cautious respect. Ethan Carter stood beside Queen Sarilith, still astonished that the impossible had happened. He had unlocked the box, defied centuries of doubt, and proved that even a human, someone from a distant small world, could stand equal to the greatest minds of Zitherus. Yet, amidst the awe, tension lingered. Many nobles still bristled with envy. Lord Viren, dark and brooding, watched from the shadows, his fists clenched. He had been defeated in pride, but was not yet broken in spirit. Sarilith, sensing Ethan's attention shifting toward the gathering nobles, squeezed his hand gently. Do not worry, she whispered. They must see that the choice is final. Ethan nodded. He had learned that on Zitherus, victory was never just about solving a problem. It was also about navigating politics, pride, and centuries of tradition. And in this hall, he had succeeded in both. The Queen stood and raised her hand. Silence fell once more, but this time it was not tense, it was expectant. Today, she began, her voice calm but powerful. We have witnessed a miracle. A human, an outsider, has unlocked the box of sovereignty. This act has not only shown skill but also honesty, patience, and courage. The ancients have spoken through the box, and it has chosen him. I honor my promise. With that, she stepped closer to Ethan. From her robe, she drew a small glowing band, a mark of the royal bond, traditionally used to signify marriage among Zytherians. She placed it carefully on Ethan's wrist. A soft light spread through, his arm warm and alive. The chamber gasped. Some bowed in shock. Others whispered in disbelief. The nobles who had opposed him could not hide their astonishment. Even Lord Viren's jaw tightened, his face a mask of fury and defeat. Ethan looked down at the glowing band and then at the Queen. I don't know what to say, he admitted. Say nothing, Saralith replied with a small smile. Let your actions speak as they have always done. In the days that followed, the palace adjusted to this new reality. Some nobles continued to murmur in the shadows, plotting or grumbling at the change. But many others began to observe Ethan with newfound respect. He had proven that intelligence and courage were not confined to one species, one lineage, or one tradition. Ethan himself was still learning. He walked the palace corridors under Saralith's guidance, listening to her explain the intricacies of Zitherian culture, law, and history. He was no scholar, but he had learned quickly that understanding the people was just as important as understanding the box. In private, the Queen encouraged him. Do not be afraid to bring your human ways into our world, she told him. Your perspective is what changed everything. It is what opened the box. Never forget that. Ethan smiled. I'll try, but it's hard. Sometimes I feel like I'm still a stranger here. She took his hand. Then be a bridge, not a stranger. Together, we will show our people the strength in unity. Lord Viren, however, did not accept this so easily. In the council chambers, he continued to speak. Against Ethan. This is an insult to Zitherus, he argued. A human untested, unworthy, now claims the honor of the Queen. How can we trust the future of our empire to such foreign influence? Other councillors shifted uncomfortably. Some had accepted the outcome. Others were afraid to challenge. Viren outright. Saralith entered the chamber, her presence commanding silence. She regarded Viren calmly but firmly. The human has proven himself, she said. He unlocked what none of us could. That is proof enough that he is worthy. Any further doubt is not for you to voice, but for history to judge. Viren's fists clenched, but he could not speak. The Queen's authority was absolute, and even his influence could not undo what had been accomplished. Meanwhile, Ethan and Saralith began working together to explore the secrets of the crystalline orb. Its glow contained knowledge far older than the palace itself. Records of the first Zitherian rulers, lost wisdom of science, medicine, and star navigation. Ethan marveled at it. This is incredible, he whispered one evening as he traced his fingers over the orb. It's like a library, but alive. Saralith nodded. The ancients created it for someone who could understand not just their technology but their values. Courage, patience, and wisdom. You see the meaning behind. The symbols, the patterns, that is why it chose you. Together, they began studying the orb, learning to unlock its secrets. Ethan's human intuition complemented the Queen's deep knowledge of Zitherian culture. Where her people had relied on rigid logic, Ethan offered imagination and adaptability. Together they uncovered insights that had been lost for centuries. As days turned into weeks, the citizens of Zitherus slowly came to accept Ethan. He was no longer just the human who unlocked the box. He became a symbol of unity, showing that humans could contribute to the empire in ways they had never imagined. Markets buzzed with excitement as humans and Zitherians collaborated on new inventions. Scholars began studying Ethan's techniques, blending them with traditional Zitherian methods. And in the palace, the Queen and Ethan grew closer, learning from one another not only about knowledge and leadership, but also about trust and respect. But even as acceptance grew, challenges remained. Lord Viren continued to stir dissent, and the council occasionally questioned the humans' influence. Yet every time they did, the Queen's presence reminded them that the ancients themselves had chosen him. Ethan reflected on this one evening as he walked through the palace gardens with Saralith. The twin moons of Zitherus bathed the flowers in silver light. I never imagined my life would come to this, Ethan admitted, smiling faintly. A human, standing beside a queen, learning the secrets of an ancient empire. Saralith laughed, softly. And yet here you are. You see, sometimes the impossible is simply waiting for someone willing to try. Ethan nodded. I think I finally understand what you meant when you said humans have something your people lost long ago. She regarded him thoughtfully. Yes. Adaptability, courage, the willingness to trust what cannot be forced. You reminded us of what we once were, and what we can be again. In time, a formal celebration was held. The palace hall shimmered, with living light, banners waving gently, music filling the air. Citizens, scholars, and dignitaries from across Etheris gathered to witness the union of the Queen and the human who unlocked the box. Queen Saralith and Ethan stood together, hands intertwined, before the crystalline orb that had made their union possible. The ceremony was simple yet profound, a promise of partnership not just between two beings but between two worlds. As the Queen placed her hand upon Ethan's shoulder, she spoke clearly for all to hear. Let this bond serve as a symbol, not of power, not of tradition alone, but of courage, understanding, and the unity of different minds. Today we honor not only the past, but the promise of a future where all beings may stand together. The crowd erupted into applause, cheers echoing across the palace. Even the nobles who had once doubted Ethan could not deny the significance of the moment. Later that evening, as the celebrations continued, Ethan and Saralith stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city. Lights shimmered in the streets below, the floating spires reflecting the glow of the twin moons. You've changed everything, Ethan said quietly, gazing at the city. Not just for me or you, but for all of your people. Saralith placed her hand over his. And you've shown that even the smallest spark, a human, can ignite something greater than anyone imagined. You are no longer a stranger. You are part of our story. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth unlike anything he had known. Then, let's make sure the story is worth telling. Together they looked out at the horizon, where the first human and the Queen of Zitherus would shape the future. Not as ruler and subject, not as alien and outsider, but as partners, explorers and pioneers. The orb pulsed softly in the distance, its light steady, a reminder of the trials overcome and the wisdom gained. The future was uncertain, but for the first time it was bright with possibility. And for Ethan Carter, the human who had unlocked the impossible, this was only the beginning.